Okay. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, I just started recording, so I wasn't able to. Yeah, I think as y'all saw, I'll see if I can do that, Warren. Yeah, so I wasn't able to rig it up so I could stream to YouTube live simultaneously. That is the goal. I didn't know YouTube put a 24-hour lock on I guess I just made that account recently, so that may be the reason it's blocked there. So in any case, um, it'll still go up on that same YouTube account. I'll just be uploading it a bit later. Hopefully for anyone that needs that, I guess they won't be here. But yeah, I guess if any of you need to drop off and just want to prefer to watch that, maybe the better. That'll be an option going forward. But yeah, so yeah, appreciate patience because I'm not too familiar with a lot of this stuff, and appreciate Fledge. He helped me out quite a bit setting that up. So very helpful there. So yeah, for today, I know there's few messages throughout the day and yesterday, just with the market recently has been quite difficult. In terms of a lot of setups, there's been a lot of stop hunts. There's been a lot of, like today, more red days. So it's just been trickier conditions. I think some people have been, and rightfully so. I think it's been a bit trickier, so more people are struggling. So I just want to sort of go through some of the pain points I noticed, but also just leave it as open floor to y'all, just to mention any difficulties you've been having, and I'll do my best to answer any questions. And if not, if I can't answer them, you can, I'll give the best answer I can, and then from there you can probably take it over to John Wicks, Jewel, Glitch, just someone who has a bit more winners, someone who has a bit more experience in the market. So do my best to make this beneficial for everyone, and then yeah, we'll just get started and see how it goes. Not sure. I have pretty open schedule, so it might go a bit later than usual. I'm not sure. So whether our chart or not is yeah, I still haven't figured out if I'll chart or not, but but we'll see. Okay, so yeah, so Loon Coreweave. Yeah, so Coreweave I can take a look at. AMD. I don't know if I noticed it. So that one I can take a look at after, but CoreWeave for sure. I think I had made comments on this on Monday or yesterday, and then so let me go pull that map. Um, let me go pull the maps for CoreWeave, and I can open them. Hopefully that shows up a bit better. Today, so let me think. So CoreWeave, we can pull yesterday's map. Let me think here. Yeah, let's pull yesterday's map at around 2 p.m. Then I'll also look at it this morning. Because I'm pretty sure just with those two maps, it should illustrate the point I was looking at. Okay, so actually, sorry, let me pull these updated maps. Let me pull the one from this morning. Coreweave. Yeah, I need to ask Glitch when he's planning to have maybe a bit of a less clunky way to go through heat maps, because right now pulling from the bot is still pretty slow. Okay. Okay, so yeah, for Coreweave, we can look at it here on the hourly on the left side of the screen. Let me see here. Maybe there's some way here I can show Gex and Vex. Sorry. Okay, yeah, maybe like this. It's a bit better. Okay, so if we go over to the hourly here on CoreWeave, let me turn on extended. Okay. Okay, yeah, so I pulled the map from 2 p.m. yesterday, so we'd be sitting right around here. And then I also pulled the map at 10 a.m. today, which is right around here. I searched a 30-minute maybe. So yeah, I think when I had spoke about this, I don't know if this was Monday or yesterday. I think yesterday I had taken a look at this. So on the maps, we can see, and I'll always have Gex on the left, Vex on the right. Um, or I'll be updating which one I have where. One second, everyone. Let
All
me.
right, have a good one.
Okay. Oh. Sorry, everyone. Can you guys see now? Okay, apologies. Yeah, I had pulled it up.
Yeah, I see it.
I had started recording on OBS, but not on not on Discord, so my fault. Um, what is this replay? I don't need. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So thanks for letting me know. Yeah, at any point if something's wrong, just message in the chat. I have it open. Okay, yeah. So this I have the 2 p.m. line, 2 p.m. chart pulled up right now from yesterday, and then I have also the 10 a.m. chart that we can look at after. So basically for Coreweave yesterday, we were closing around 1:30. And I think Monday I had discussed that it's either Monday or Tuesday, or maybe Sunday even, that Coreweave seemed to have some nodes at 1:30, this 125, and as well as 140. Obviously 140, everyone noticed. Everyone's been using that as a target. It's a pretty big node on Vex and Gex. I think the 130 and 125 is maybe where people had a bit more, it was less clear which one would be the floor, which one would step in, etc. So my general advice here, and I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure when I went through and said this, I said 130 playing this bounce is a much riskier entry. Just seeing that on Tuesday we did wick pretty low under. Um, and even if we didn't wick under, right, obviously you're going to have a much better risk reward playing a bounce off 125 than 130, right? Because if you enter 130, we actually come home 125. You're going to probably sit through some pretty significant red. Um, so in general, just when you see these cases where there's a couple bounce spots, um, it's just always safer to take the bottom one, right? And if we don't tap that bottom one, just don't take the play. So that's my general advice is you should be looking to optimize your entry. So even though Coreweave looks like it has very nice upside with this node on Vex and Gex, that doesn't mean we should just at the first opportunity buy longs. We want to or by calls, sorry. You want to make sure that we're still looking for the best possible entry into those calls, right? So, oh shoot, I'm getting echo. One second. Okay, seems to be fixed. Okay, so in any case, the you always just want to be checking what is the best possible entry and just enter there, right? And then of course that doesn't mean this is gonna work. Obviously this one it worked quite well, but that's there's always setups that'll go wrong, even with heatseeker, right? So I know like UPST was a bit funky today, and then although I think Glitch made a good point on that one that I can go over later. But yeah, I think in this case, Coreweave is just wait for the best entry here at 125, and then so yeah, the other point I was gonna make is so we can look at it today at 10 a.m. So I don't know when I actually wicked that low. I think it was actually before 10 a.m. But essentially, Um, I just had an alert at like 126 or something, or I was just tracking price. So as soon as I saw it hit that low, and it rejected 125 like within minutes. Like I think if we step down here, um, yeah, like look at this 5 minute candle rejection off 125, right? Like we hunted almost down to 124, but within a 5 minute window, we already bounced, right? So this told me like this is the exact reaction you want to see. So if you bought into the dip, which I didn't, I just by the time I got the alert, like opened everything and checked, it had already bounced. Like this move was super rapid. Um, but if you would have bought into that bounce, you'd probably get an extra 20, 30% on the contracts that I had. And my contracts were also extremely strong regardless. And I think now, now what do I say? If you would have bought in on 130 either yesterday or today, you'd have sat through drawdown a couple times, lost some value on theta. So that's why I say just always try to hunt for the optimal entries, even if that means you miss plays, right? I think the mentality you should take is I'm willing to miss 10 plays if that means the 2 plays I do take are of much higher quality and of a much higher win rate and better returns, right? So just try to reframe your expectations when you're looking after trades, right? And instead of trying to force, even if you had a good thesis pre-market, if it's not going your way, just don't try to force the trade. Just try to make sure that you're taking things that look, just a setups, A plus, however you want to call them. Always be looking for these like prime entries, right? So this 125 was extremely good bounce, even with the market sell off, right? I know we started selling off pretty hard going into midday. These contracts, I'm pretty sure they pumped maybe 70, 80%. And again, I didn't even have a clean entry. Like it probably was 100% if you caught straight off 125. Probably retraced back down, like mine retraced to break even, and then just continuously pumped up the rest of the day. And they're up, I think right now they're at 100-ish, right? So, like, this is truly an example of wait for best node and just wait, right? Like, I think I have been chatting with someone in private messages, I forgot who it was, and it was a big part of this is just you just have to wait, right? Like, I think, and I do it as well. Like, I rush a lot of setups, so then um, you will always be better served by just waiting and just trying to find the next setup um, that looks good. Okay. So yeah, no, I went uh, pretty in depth on this one, but that was just one I've been tracking all week, so I just have a bit more to speak on there. Um, AMD, let me go pull these maps. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, I had to mute again. Okay, so if we're looking at AMD, let me see here. So AMD, are you looking for comments on what has happened during the week or something that already happened? Because it has just been chopping, has been ranging all week. But let me look at the map. Let me see. Guess we got a good rejection here around 12. So yeah, let me just pull the map from 10 a.m. and see if possibly that bounce could have been. Oh shoot. Yeah, and I guess another thing I'll say is, especially for sessions like this where I'm doing more of recaps, but I'm not able to, that are based on things that have already happened. If y'all can like, pull the maps from the bot yourself and then send them in, that is pretty helpful. So I don't want to have to spend the whole time just looking for um, maps just because it's pretty clunky. Okay, so I think AMD had a nice bounce off 160. I think CGG has sent a message, so I think you also might want to take a look at what he said. But at least from my first glance, it does seem to be pretty range bound. And I guess that shows pretty clear on the chart, right? But this 160 seems to have been holding quite strong. Um, this one it hasn't quite gotten to that 165. I guess it did tap in. Is this pre-market or right out the gate? Okay, so it tapped right out the gate. So I mean, in theory, with these, like, yeah, you could have played the 165 rejection. Um, that wouldn't have been a bad play. Now, I wouldn't take it just because I generally don't trade until 10. Like I usually don't trade the morning unless it's something super, like some super asymmetrical setup like what I was just showing with Coreweave. But with AMD, it's a bit more limited because even though you could have played the good rejection of 165, where really this 160 node would give a lot of trouble for it to go a lot lower. And that's what we saw, right? Like this 160 node did hold pretty strong intraday, and now we just settled at sort of a midpoint between the 165 and 160 levels. So unless until one of these breaks, I could see AMD just spending a bit of time here, chopping around. Let me see. And CGG, he was saying, yeah, if we get under 157, maybe we could see some of these lower nodes grow a lot higher. But yeah, I think, yeah, CGG also made the point. This 165 is a very strong level. So it'd be, at least from currently what it's looking like, I'm not sure AMD has much range going into end of week. Um, okay. Oh, Loon. Okay, I see what you're saying. So this is as an example of the purple stack nodes. Yeah, so I think I guess a couple things to comment that they're maybe just general. So in general, when we're looking at yellow and purple nodes, the if we are not close to those nodes, right, and we're just using them as a price magnet or target, we can treat them almost the same, right? We can just base on the volume they have. We can say, okay, if we have a very strong node, we can assume it'll pull price that direction, right? So for example, here on Coreweave, whether this 140 node is yellow or purple, we can say it will pull price that way. Now, the big difference is once we do start approaching these nodes, and I think this is something you that is very important because, as Glitch has mentioned many times, right, you don't want to take these nodes as law, right? Like this does not mean price will end at 140 on Friday, right? Like sometimes it happens, but many times we have nodes that step in and prevent that from happening by end of week, right? So, and I think rightfully so, what you should be targeting is sort of these reactions around the nodes, right? Like treating the bounces on those nodes. And when we're seeing purple nodes, is we're getting a bit more. The price as we approach those nodes is a bit more volatile. Is probably the best word, but it's a bit more explosive, right? So there's a higher chance of a strong wick through and then a rejection. There's a higher chance of just a very strong rejection. Whereas as we approach these yellow nodes, price tends to, if you can imagine, if we spike up and then it'll just sort of slowly sort of tail off, right? So it will reject as well, but just the way price comes in, it kind of dampens how it's moving as it approaches that node. Whereas purple can increase the volatility as we're getting to those nodes. Now that's just in general how they work on a singular basis. Now to WZ's question, if we're looking at these, sorry, let me take some time here. Okay, yeah. So for these stack nodes, on SPX especially, in those cases, they're usually it's quite rare for you to see like mass stack of nodes on SPX, right? Like we usually don't get more than two or three nodes, consecutive nodes that are just very high volume. And if we do, that's a sign of a lot of chop, a lot of uncertainty, and just that will be pretty range bound. So in those cases, it's one of those cases where you just say like, okay, it's better. I just don't even trade this. Now I'm saying if we have three or four nodes stacked and there's just the volumes just keeps fluctuating between those four nodes, right? So that's one of those cases you just want to either size way lighter or just honestly just even just watch price as it develops. Now, if we have a double stack node, which I think was the case today, let me see if I can pull a map to show that. I wasn't tracking SPX all day, I'll be honest. It's a bit busy at work, but let me see if I can guess a time for that. So maybe around 1. I don't know if this was a good time to show that. Okay, yeah, so okay, I guessed well, I suppose. Yeah, so at 1. So I assume this is the case most of you were talking about. Is this double bottom stack node purple? So and in general, when we do have stack nodes, it does just show we have like a very strong level there. But the big the big caveat there is it also means that our bounce spot, right, is now much larger, right? It's not just one. as whereas before we can say, okay, 6620 will probably reject. What I've seen before on some of these stack nodes is it may hunt a bit further down than what you expect. So, but the chances of a bounce there are quite strong. So I think the it's up to you what approach you take. But I know most people on these will just take um, a pretty strong low ball on those fills. But I think today actually it bounced just above 6620. So today's actually an example of, let me see here. Maybe on 5 minute we can see. Yeah, so today's low was actually 6621, right? So again, some of the I guess this sort of highlights what I was saying about these purple nodes is sometimes you'll get a wick much lower than where the node actually sits, and sometimes it may even reject a bit early. So let me look at this node, this picture from Glitch. Double stack floors. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So Sam, thank you for sending that. I hadn't seen that message, but yeah. So in that case, the when looking at these double stack nodes, it seems it does strengthen the resolve of that bounce area, right? So whereas if we just would have had one node at 6620, maybe you treat it with more, not more caution, but maybe you can expect it to get a bit further in. It seems the double stack nodes that you do get a more stronger reaction off of those. So I know someone asked if you can see that same performance on individual tickers. I don't actually know. I would have to go pull some cases of that. I don't think I've ever seen that. AMD, is that AMD right now for whoever sent WZ? Because yeah, let me pull that up then. Okay. So I don't know when I pulled up AMD. I must have pulled it around 10 a.m. then. Maybe I pulled it yesterday. That's the issue. But yeah, like in general, like if we have a double stack node, I think you can still treat it as a very strong bounce spot. But if we were to come down on SPX here, have 6620, 6615 lit up as as these purple nodes, if we get some of these ceilings to roll down to 6630, 6625, 6635, that's really showing you that we just have quite a lot of chop. And same with AMD, like if we hold this 160 level and start pushing into these purple nodes, it just gives a lot of uncertainty, right? Because, you know, at any of those points, you could say, oh, we might reject here. But at the same time, the volume it could start rolling up, it could stay where it is, but it just gives a ton of uncertainty because we're not playing, there's no way to play a bounce from one to the next in such a small range, right? Like you'd have to get the move absolutely perfect. So is in these cases, like with AMD, I would just not even, I just wouldn't even bother. Now that's my view. And I think that's why CGG is saying, if we do lose this level, that'll be a pretty big deal because in theory we should be sticking around here for just a while. Yeah, Sam. So like if you're seeing clump nodes, 4 or 5 strike prices, all with pretty significant volume, all stacked, and just sometimes what you'll see is the top and bottom will be yellow. Sometimes just one side will be yellow, the rest will be purple. It's just saying we're seeing a lot of uncertainty here. There's not a clear target, right? Like we're not saying there's not a clear target, and there's also not a clear bounce spot or rejection spot. So these setups, and they don't happen too often actually. So this may be, the AMD case might be one of the more extreme ones I've seen. But what do you want to do there? Essentially, is probably just exercise a lot of caution or just stay away. Like, you know, I think also another general advice I'll give is heat maps have over 300 tickers. So unless you've looked through all 300 and you're saying AMD is probably the best one I see, just word of advice is just stick to something else, right? Because there will definitely be another setup you can find that is better than what we're seeing here with AMD. But yeah, for the I guess going back to the double stack nodes, I'll take Glitch's comment. Glitch has much more experience seeing, and I honestly I can't remember the last time I saw a double stack node on SPX, but it seems those rejections are very clean, are very strong as well. So I think we can also take today as a pretty good example for the future of something to look for. And then I think one last comment I'll make on today's index movement is um, I think also whenever we are dropping, we are clear sell model in the morning. One thing I'll also sort of just advise is you want to be looking at QQQ, SPY, SPX, at least two of those side by side. And you just want to be checking because, for example, I think today QQQ showed a higher bounce spot than SPX. But if you would have played that QQQ bounce, you would have probably held pretty deep drawdown until SPX finally bounced. So if you are trying to sort of catch the knife as we're selling off through the day and you see two indexes with different bounce spots, it's probably in your best interest to either size much lighter if you're trying to catch it earlier, or just wait for the absolute bottom, right? So once QQQ lost its level, then you say, okay, you know what? Now I'll take SPX, because I know QQQ's already shown that it had signs of reversal. But if that's the case and SPX didn't show that, then you may want to wait. Just wait on the worst case scenario, because that means you'll just be getting the best entry, right? Because if QQQ falls through its floor, its supposed floor, then you might as well just catch the SPX one, and then you'll just have the added confluence of QQQ already saying you should have bounced. So it's similar to what I said earlier with Coreweave, where, why play at 130 when there's a risk that it'll fall all the way to 125? Just plan for the worst, um, not worst case scenario, actually, sort of best case scenario. Just assume that you'll be able, I guess you should target to enter on the best fill possible. So whether that's the QQQ floor being lower or SPX floor being lower or SPY floor being lower, just to be on the safe side, just try to enter on the best possible entry. Whether it's indexes, general tickers, etc. Okay. Sorry, let me go back up. Yeah, so UPST. Um, I'm not gonna pull the maps. I don't think I have to because it's pretty much had the same few nodes the whole time. Well, even from when I looked on this Wednesday, today, yesterday. So yeah, I guess let me zoom out here on hourly. So yeah, a couple comments here. Um, One, so yeah, UPST had a very clean setup, what looked like a very clean setup end of day yesterday, right? Like we had just dropped down, tapped 63 node, which had been floor for the week, with 68 had also been pretty, I think at the beginning of week it had actually been very strong. It looks like it's actually shrank quite a bit. I haven't been tracking like the actual node value. So a couple comments. So one, yeah, we just delivered from that 68 area end of last week and beginning of this week. So we opened Monday around 67.5, which is where that node was. Now, that's not to say playing a bounce off 63 would never work. Like I've seen setups where that does happen, but what you would want to see there is volume, continue to stay strong. And I believe yesterday was strong. So if you did take this setup, honestly, I don't see much wrong with it on the weekly. Now, the one thing I did want to mention that I think Glitch had said in the chat is with some of these setups, you also want to be cognizant of what you're seeing for next week, right? Or just any major nodes. So, and I think this is something that is more evident when you're looking at SPX price movement, when, around FOMC or NFP, when we're getting big hedge nodes up or downside. But basically, what can happen is sometimes if these moves aren't well in alignment, like if this 63 node had come and tapped, and on UPST, this 57 node wasn't here, and we're seeing instead a couple nodes at 75, 72. Um, in that case, it's a much stronger confluence because even though those are nodes for next week, If you seeing them line up, like if you're seeing the play look good for the next 2 or 3 weeks, that'll definitely show that that's the overall trend it'll take, right? Whereas in this case, if we're seeing, yeah, still some upside here at 68, but then some nodes around where it was sitting yesterday at close, but then also this odd node down here, 157, that does show that it's just, it just introduces a bit of doubt, right? Of are we truly going to bounce back up to the 68, or is the 68 just going to fade throughout the rest of the week since we just got delivered from it, right? So I think use PST. It looked clean if you were just looking at one column. If you start to take into account the second column, that's where it does look not as ideal. So hopefully UPST that gives a good explanation there. Yeah, someone had asked for the Bitcoin tickers. Oh, Loon, were they not? Those are recent nodes for next week. I'd have to pull. I'd have to pull and check those maps. Okay, so in that case, did those Loon? Do you know if those grew today or yesterday? Okay, yeah. So while Loon checks those, I guess the other comment here is right. Obviously, we had our thesis of we come drop down, tap 63, and then bounce back up. Couple couple things we were fighting today was overall market sentiment being very negative, and that was something that we knew from the beginning of the week, right? Like from beginning of week, we knew SPY, SPX, QQQ were all showing pretty significant downside into the midweek, into end of week, just with some of these, they have pretty major nodes low down on VEX. So even though many individual tickers did look quite bullish, honestly, as you look at the overall market sentiment with some of those nodes on SPY, QQQ, SPX, that does give you a hint into, even if an individual ticker looks strong, if the entire market's selling off, it's just going to give it a very hard time, right? Like, for example, like even Coreweave, which was very strong today, um, it did pump initially, drop almost back to break even, and then finally run once the market bottomed out a bit. So for any ticker that is not carrying very, like a lot of strength, yeah, I mean it'll drop, right? If overall market is being taken down, then that's it's very hard for just the ticket would have to be really strong to just combat such a strong sell-off like we were seeing today. So even though these UPST nodes may not have been there and they grew throughout the day, um, you could have seen the setup as maybe a bit more in doubt if you're tracking the SPY QQQ overall sentiment, and that just tells you to size lighter, not take the play. That depends more on your risk tolerance. Now, even apart from those indexes, I think we have to remember is um, heat map is a very accurate tool, but it's also a it's a tool, right? If it was 100%, um, yeah, Glitch would sell it for millions of dollars, not the price he has it. So uh, there's cases where what look like very strong bounces are not respected, right? So you have to also prepare for that. And then in those cases, you want to just make sure that you have a plan on the chart as well of what you'll do in case we chop there a bit longer, in case we knife all the way through. So you do want to be aware, have some plan in case the setup doesn't go right, right? Because not every, I mean, obviously, this can help your win rate and just um, your trading overall, but that doesn't mean it's bulletproof and you're just going to be you know, cranking out top plays every week. So, um, and yeah, and I think one last thing I'll say on UPST is if you come here on the daily, yeah, so this UPST had sort of bounced off 62 to 63 a few times now. Um, so then today, once we did get that selling pressure, and we saw the 62 level being tested once again, and even 61, we are now on the we're on the third tap of it, right? So then this is same as SPX today, where once we got third tap of that level, it's a much higher chance of it falling through. So I know even if entering on 63, what you should have done is maybe take a look at the chart and then say, our do or die level is probably this double bottom here. So now, and just use that as sort of a mental stop loss or just a point where you reassess if you're willing to hold or not, depending on your sizing. So hopefully that helped on UPST, but yeah, I will say like UPST, even to me, like I thought it looked quite good coming into today, and then yeah, market took a pretty strong downturn overall, and the setup didn't quite play out the bounce where we were expecting. So this you have to also be prepared and be smart with your sizing, right? Because this is something that can happen, right? So um, yeah, just account that not every setup will go to plan exactly as you think. I think last thing I'll say here is we do have pretty strong liquidity at that level I did mark. So what's also the case here, and what I've seen in the past, I'd have to look back on my own and find maybe good examples of this. Is there? I have seen cases where we do knife really hard, um, even through a node or even just on the chart, right? Like we do knife pretty hard, just as a stop hunt, and then we do get a pretty strong reversal off there. Now, I don't think that's the case here, just due to the fact I'm pretty sure the 68 node tailed off pretty strong today, as well as some of these nodes coming in for next week. So I don't believe that will be the case here. But I do know many times, when we're sort of ranging, for example, if we're ranging here and here, for price to move up, it'll come take out some of this bottom liquidity and then jump up. So um, I think if you size responsibly, that'll sort of help you stress less when those stop hunts happen. So maybe just another word of advice there. Last month, August 22nd. Let me check on that. So you're saying here? Yeah, I guess UPST, we had something here. Yeah, so I guess on a smaller time frame, you can sort of treat this the same. I don't know if it perfectly illustrates it, but let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, back, I don't know if this is the exact example you were saying, but yeah, so back here in August, we had UPST, sort of same thing, right? Like we have pretty good trend line here. Um, this double bottom. So, many people might have played the break here overnight on Tuesday. Once we get that rejection, and yeah, so I guess this is sort of what I was saying. We're taking out this this double bottom here, just sniping under. So what happens sometimes is, this is truly just a failed level and it breaks under. What other times this is they know a lot of retail traders will have to stop at these key levels, this double bottom. So they'll hunt it under, chop it here for a day just to make a lot of, just to grab the liquidity that's sitting there and just to get a lot of people to sell out of their positions. And then, yeah, once later in the week, or maybe that was the week after, then it did break out. So this is a pretty good example of, I call them liquidity grabs. It just depends where, and different people call them different things. This could be a stop hunt, liquidity grab, whatever you want to call it. But there's many cases where they have this panic day, so this August 19th would have been a huge panic day, right? Where instead of maybe the breakout a lot of people are expecting here, we just get a complete drop under their stop loss level. Um, and then, yeah, what do you know? After everyone sells off here, then we get the exact move they were trying to get. So sometimes this is them hunting liquidity. Sometimes this is truly the level being lost. So my point being is you can't always know which of the two it will be. So the only way for you to combat that is through good sizing, right? So just make sure for whatever size port you're managing and for whatever size, whatever mentally you need to also learn yourself, right? And know how much drawdown you can look at and be comfortable with. Um, and still let the trade play out, right? Because yeah, I guess whoever brought up that point of the August UPST liquidity hunt, that is on a higher time frame, that might be the same thing we're seeing now, or this might just break down. So I think it has a lot to do with overall market sentiment going into end of week. But um, but yeah, it's a similar thing that seems to be playing out here on the daily that played out on the hourly about a month ago. So hopefully that helped. Um, but yeah, I guess overall on UPST, just make sure you guys are sizing smart on some of these plays, because it's still early in the week and it gives them a lot of time to move price around, make us nervous, scare us out and have us sell our position, etc. So hopefully that helped. Okay, and I know someone had asked for Bitcoin tickers, Coinbase and MSTR. Sorry, I just now getting to that. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so actually, let's check Bitcoin first. So I know Bitcoin was at a huge do or die level. Is this not Bitcoin? I thought I had lines drawn on Bitcoin. Okay, yeah, sorry. I think my trading view got some stuff deleted. Okay, so yeah, Bitcoin was at a huge do or die level. I think Glitch had mentioned this in the chat of an inverse head and shoulder. I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't, that's not how I would find this. What's the stronger confluence here is we are seeing a super strong support resistance flip at this level, right? Like we had a huge resistance here, previous all-time highs. It held super strong as a support. Back in August, we broke below, but now we broke up, even some as resistance here. And, Glitch was saying this is a very strong potential for it to hold once again as a support and get a bounce to Bitcoin. And yeah, what do you know? I think this may have, I don't know if it was overnight or during market, but Bitcoin bounced pretty hard today. Now, so I know someone had asked for EBIT either on the weekend or the other day when I charted. So, EBIT, which tails Bitcoin almost perfectly, would have been valid, right? Because we do get that same corresponding bounce on today's candle. Now for coin and MicroStrategy, I let me pull the map. I actually don't play these tickers. Sorry, someone making a comment or okay, went away. But I'm pretty sure from last time I charted, I think coin and MSTR were looking fairly bullish going into this week, especially um with that Bitcoin approaching that super strong level. So it looks like coin dropped pretty hard today. Let me check my MSTR. Okay, MSTR had a bit of a worse day. Okay, but MSTR is also sitting around these levels here. Okay. So yeah, I guess I don't have a ton of experience with these tickers, so hopefully I'm not misspeaking. Someone else pop up in chat if this is incorrect, but I do know MSTR, especially MSTR, is very it's played very big by retail. So I know it's also moved around a lot by market makers. So um, I guess one word there is personally, if I were to play MSTR coin, I would probably size pretty light. That's just due to my own experience of how they move. They're not always, in theory, they should be tied to Bitcoin, but they're not always moving exactly in line with it. But yeah, so looking at these setups, I think MSTR 320 was the line. Yeah, so that was the node I had seen Sunday. And the upside still looks fairly good. I think beginning of the week it was much more distinctive, this 355 node. What we seem to have now is we've had a lot of ceilings step in around 330, 340, 350. So it seems the upside is maybe a bit more limited. Um, sorry, let me get some water. But yeah, I think one thing I'll comment here is these setups did look quite strong beginning of week. What we have to always remember is we're playing weeklies, and if we're looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday entries, um, there's still a lot of time left on those contracts, right? So if you did buy coin off of this 320 tap, which was sort of the strongest bounce node, I'm pretty sure even in maps a couple few days ago, if you waited for 320, like on the dot, set an alert there, bought in, I don't think these contracts would be down too much. Now, I'm not saying they'd be super green, but the if you shouldn't be sitting in massive drawdown if you waited for the proper level, if you waited for the sort of this optimal entry point. And likely, if this pumped in the morning, you could have trimmed out already for a pretty good percentage. Now, I'd have to check the profits channel. I don't usually check in there, but I would imagine somebody played this bounce. Maybe Glitch played MSTR there or Coin, but the the expected bounce off 320 looks like it did work out for about $5, right? So if we get open $5 up, $4 or $5 after this 10 a.m. candle, you should have been able to get a pretty good trim. Okay, yeah, thank you, Dax. I guess I don't know how I say that, but yeah, so you should have still had quite a nice play here. I don't know if MSTR was as clean, but my point being is these two tickers are usually pretty heavy manipulated, but even still, if you're setting alerts, just waiting for the levels you wanted to enter, have these optimal entries at, you were still getting pretty good returns. Even MSTR, although MSTR, I don't think it had quite a distinctive node, but I know Coinbase did have a pretty clear bounce node. So the play there was it was good to play the rejection off that 320. Now, I do think one issue with both of those setups is for further upside, like this trend line does look quite strong. So if we break, I do expect we would get some upward move. But we've had a lot of nodes step in as sort of ceilings or gatekeepers. I guess different people call them different things, but it does seem like we'll have a pretty hard time clearing this 330, which has shown up a pretty good volume on Gex and Vex. So I do think this into end of week, coin is probably not showing the promise it did at the beginning of week. So just with any setup, I would say probably check it maybe twice a day, once in morning, once in afternoon, and just take a look at the maps. Take note of which nodes are growing on both. So as you see this Vex nodes growing as ceilings, and that'll just help you manage your position, right? So that'll just tell you, okay, should I trim pretty heavy today, or is it okay for me to hold and expect a bit higher um, into end of week? So hopefully for coin and MicroStrategy, that was what y'all were looking for in terms of explanation. Sorry, let me go back up in the chat. So yeah, Vic. Yeah, so I think a couple of ways to combat because a lot of times you'll see ceilings step in into end of week. So a couple of ways to combat those is to just play the bounce and not hold till end of week. To play very close to the money tick or contracts. And those are sort of two ways you can give a bit of insurance, or to play further dated contracts, right? So if you're playing 3 weeks out, it's okay if we don't quite get to that peak node because you still have a lot more time and your contract should still be pretty healthy there. So those are just some general tricks you can use to get around these cases where maybe we don't quite reach the peak node you were hoping for. Okay, Bloom Energy. I think this one moved pretty big. I don't really track this stock. Okay, so this is off memory, but let me pull the map for Friday and Monday, and we'll probably see some kind of king node there um, that it seems like we ultimately rejected. So give me 1 second there to pull that. Friday. What was Friday? 19th. Wow, really? Was this the map on Friday? Okay, sorry, let me. Maybe Thursday then. Okay, yeah, I'm just. There's two possibilities here on Bloom. I just want to make sure I'm telling y'all the right one. Either way, it's a good example of a trade here. Uh, okay, so we did have Bloom. Why is this not working? Okay, so yeah, Bloom. This is Thursday. I pulled earlier in the morning, and then let me pull up. This is Thursday late in the morning. Okay, yeah, so Bloom on Thursday did have. This is an example of a node overshoot. So yeah, when we have, so it looks like King node was $80 for Bloom, pretty strong throughout all of last week, I imagine. So it seems Thursday around midday. Let me see. Actually, even before midday, we were already at that peak node. And over the course of Friday and even Monday this week, we got what is what I think what glitch refers to as like a node overshoot. But basically, we had our king node here around 80, and then as we go into as this continues to push past this peak node, but we also didn't get any kind of roll up into the 85 node. So this 85 node still stayed pretty minor. And what that's telling you is that it's a pretty good chance that this is a case where we reach the king node, overshoot it, and then at some point we're going to expect it to reject and pull back towards that king node. So, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. So either Monday, I guess Monday would have been best point, or even yesterday at some point to load puts, expecting it to retrace to at least this 80 level. Now, let me check. None of these maps are current. Yeah, so I'd have to check how it looked on Monday. I only pulled Thursday and Friday maps, but the point is it is pretty safe to assume that we'll have these sort of whenever we overshoot, we'll pull back towards these king nodes. Now, with that overshoot being on Thursday, Friday, yeah, the safe thing to do is expect this pullback, but not, that's not saying Friday it'll happen to the dot, right? So, in general, when these moves are happening end of week and you feel, okay, we may have overshot, let's play a pullback, if it's Friday, just add a week to it, right? Just buy next week contracts. And I don't know if that's what Glitch did or what if he was mentioning, but I guess the play he's doing here is we overshot this king node. We didn't get any roll up towards these higher nodes. At least that's what it looks like from the few maps I pulled. And this king node stayed strong at 80, so we can expect some rejection and draw or pull back towards that node that was the target for last week. And then, yeah, once we did puncture through this 80 floor, and again, I'd have to check the maps on Monday, but looking at the map right now, I would imagine the 80 either stayed strong, but we likely saw some accumulation down here on the 74, 75 nodes. So then what that's telling you is, yeah, we rejected back to that king node from last week, but now there's also some growth even lower. So that may be a sign that, yeah, you can, sure, you can trim coming into this king node, but that we may see some further downside as we're getting pretty rapid accumulation further down on these nodes. Now, for these plays, right? Um, I would imagine the returns on this are probably massive, but when you enter a play like this, you should definitely be targeting most trims at this king node, right? Because many times this will hold strong base and then bounce back, right? So, and just in terms of like management of your plays, you always want to make sure you have some kind of target. Once you get the reversal and you say, okay, like I want to be trimming most into this king node, and then I'll just hold a few runners in case some of these lower nodes take stronger hold later in the week and hold through. So and that seems to be what happened here. Is we got um, some of these lower nodes to take really strong control, and this 80 node practically disappeared. Now I don't know when that happened over the course of Monday, Tuesday, but I'd have to you can go back in the bot and sort of just pull the map like every hour, every couple hours, and just see how those nodes grew and shrank, and that'll just give you huge clues right into if you were in this play, how you could have managed, and if you should hold a runner or not. Okay, hopefully that was helpful for Bloom Energy. WZ, if you're saying Tesla, just looking outlook, I'll probably chart stuff at the end of the session. For now, I'm just trying to answer just any questions on what's happened so far in the week or any just general questions um, just with heatseeker in general or just questions in trading. Liquidity. Yeah, for the Netflix, I'm pretty sure Netflix rolled down pretty heavy today, Warren. So let me see. Yeah, so I think Netflix just dropped in general, but yeah, this 1250 came alive as complete ceiling. Yeah, so that setup didn't quite didn't quite go too well. I think overall market did murder a lot of plays this week. Okay. Okay, Vic. Yeah, good to hear. It's only slight drawdown, but yeah, hopefully that move goes as planned. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on chat here. Okay, I think these people are talking about UPST. And yeah, I guess another comment I'll make. Yeah, I know Glitch may have played Bloom Energy for very huge returns. I think we also, I don't know everyone's port size. Um, just be cognizant of Glitch has a massive port, right? Like Glitch can trim at 30% a huge position and then just have free runners left to just hold, right? As long as needed. Many of us, at least I can't. I don't know this position for everyone else here, but you just reframe, not reframe, but just I would say make sure your expectations are realistic for what you can hold, because sometimes glitch holds runners that do go to 1,000 plus, and sometimes I'm sure they expire worthless. So just be careful um, for your port size and what you can actually risk. That you're not always just gunning for a massive trade, right? Just make sure you're doing fundamentals and taking trims early at good points marked out on the chart and on the maps, and then over time that'll just help you grow your port, and then one day you'll be able to hold runners as long as needed, but just be aware of what your port size is, and what's smart to risk or not. uh, yeah, Mike, no shot. It is recorded though, so I'll post it on YouTube after this, so it should be helpful for those who can't join. Fledge, that's for you guys to tackle. Okay, let me see here. Loon is sending a few good images here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So Loon got the exact play, right? If we overshot that node, even without the overshoot, if you're planning for a rejection, you could enter position at 80. Once we overshot a bit, then and you still see that 80 node as very strong. So if you still have conviction in that reversal back down, then yeah, you can either average down or just leave your initial position to run. But Bloom is Bloom is probably, yeah, one of the best cases I've seen of a node overshoot in some time. I think IonQ may have also done a node overshoot, but I would have to check because I know IonQ was a bit different because as you check the map each day, they were just continuously rolling up those nodes on the heat map. Whereas Bloom, it seems like they pretty much consistently held that 80 node pretty strong, and then we got a lot of accumulation lower. So I guess those are two examples of both cases we overshot King node, but the way um, the nodes grew or shrank in the coming days can tell you if this is a case where we're just gonna break above that King node and hold, or if it's a case we're gonna break above and reject. So yeah, Loon, thanks for those images and for that. Those messages are pretty good explanation there. So yeah, if you guys want to have sort of a comparison of a node overshoot where we do reject and where we don't, take a look at Bloom Energy this week and IonQ. I believe it was either 2 weeks ago or last week that we overshot it, but then just held that level pretty strong. Okay. Josh. So yeah, I think so. Those screenshots are from the 15th. So that's from early last week. So I think based on those nodes, Loon was probably waiting either for a 60 tap or an 80 tap to play the reversal. See you, Fledge. Thanks. Yeah, thanks again to Fledge. He helped set up the OBS system and taught me some of that stuff so I can record and post on YouTube afterwards. Yeah, so Josh, basically what happened is Loon sent, I think her screenshot is from Monday. These screenshots on the right of my screen are from later on Thursday midday. So at this point, we were seeing, we have this peak node, and Loon was probably playing the rejection off that 80, right? Once we overshot, and this node stayed pretty strong. So here we overshot. If you can see, prices up at 83. This king node stayed the same, and the 75 node just kept a bit of volume too. That's probably what gave Loon some conviction to average down. Instead of cutting position, just average down and still wait for that retracement back towards that 80 king node this week. So, right. So, like, whenever we get overshoots, 60. Oh, I see Loon. Oh, I see this node here. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, so I guess Loon is saying here is, yeah, we did get this node overshoot, but then as well, next week nodes. So for this week, we were getting some pretty good volume at the 74 and these 60 levels. So that's what gave you the idea to play the node overshoot, but then also buy some time and hold throughout this week, right? Hopefully, I'm understanding your messages correctly, Loon. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for explanation there. Josh, hopefully that made more sense. Yeah, sorry, it's a bit tricky. Yeah, I wish there was some quicker way for me to pull up, you know, the heat map at each day and just walk through it. But in between what Loon sent and then the few ones I did pull up, hopefully that gives you a clear idea. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, I'll let Loon answer that in chat. Let me see. Someone else had just mentioned something. Oh, Microsoft. Um, yeah, I'd be shocked if Loon was holding a 1,500% position, but it's possible. Okay. Yeah, so Microsoft. Actually, Microsoft kind of had a this trend line kind of broke down a bit. Let me check the map here. So I know Microsoft, and I think even last week I had been speaking on this. It looks quite good. Like it had had some strong stair steps. These notes had been there from last week as well. I think last week on Friday was a pretty nice entry on Microsoft. Um, yeah, where we pumped in morning, had a pullback, and then if you entered anywhere here, this big candle here was, I think, due to they dropped some news about the Xbox, something like that. So any trims going into, yeah, well, I mean, I think Jewel alerted these for like 3,000%, but then even if you play 2 weeks out, 1 week out, you probably just sold on Monday open up a good 80, 90, 100%. Um, Going into end of week and into the next couple weeks, like these nodes are still quite strong. So it does look like we are getting some direction upward. The only caution here is we just need to keep tracking how the overall market is doing. So it's had a pretty strong setup, but with the sell off today, as well as yesterday, that has sort of just stunted a bit of a few of the good setups. But I will say Microsoft, it is still holding this level quite well. Pretty strong support. Actually, this goes a bit further back. Goes pretty far back, honestly. Pretty strong support resistance level. It comes all the way back from this wick months ago. So I'll just keep an eye on this level on Microsoft because on the map I'm not seeing much of a floor. Let's say maybe this 515 needs to be reclaimed, but there's not much of there's not a clear floor on Microsoft, I would say right now. But on the chart we are getting some pretty good. This level's holding pretty well for now. And then, over next, if you buy some time on Microsoft, I think we do have some potential for upside. And you said earnings 1029. Does that show here? I guess not. But yeah, I think if earnings are 1029, yeah, this should be something you're trying to play over the next couple of weeks or a month, and then probably scale up before earnings. But I'm pretty risk averse, so I personally don't like to hold through earnings. But I leave that. That's your own decision based on risk. Okay. Um, okay. Yeah, and either right now or after this session, I'd probably suggest everyone go read that message Glitch just sent because that's sort of what I mentioned earlier, and I think I mentioned it either yesterday or 2 days ago. A lot of these setups look very good for bounces or continuation upwards. But if we're fighting, -$3 days on the QQQ, there's not much you can do. Even with a great setup, it just won't go your way, right? So you need to keep the broader market in account when you're trying to do um, when you're trying to plan out some of these trades, right? So either size smaller, just don't take the trades at all, or just focus on the indexes, right? Like I think one thing for those of you either with smaller ports, um, or if you just had a rough time lately with individual tickers, just pull, like just pull your money out of those positions or just play them very lightly and just focus on SPY and QQQ, because those are setups that no matter what the day brings, you should be able to catch some returns if you're playing the main indexes because you should not have any bias going into the day. Just look at the maps, how they evolve throughout the day, and just play what you're seeing there, right? So I think for a lot of people, if you've been struggling with individual takers, I would suggest spending a lot more time just tracking SPX, SPY, QQQ, all those maps. Um, Look at how the nodes move throughout the day because you get much larger dealer positioning shifts on those tickers than with some of these other tickers, some individual tickers. So it'll really hone in um, sort of your fundamentals on using heat maps if you spend a lot of time doing indexes, right? And I know it's a lot trickier sometimes, it's a lot more rapid, but that's fine. Like just even if it's a mental trade, just track what's happening on indexes and just try to learn those, right? And always remember, even if playing individual, you have to keep the broader market in context, whether that's indexes overall, whether it is any sector ETFs, right? Like if you're trying to pump SMC, if you want to play calls on AMD, but the entire semiconductor ETF is pointing down, NVIDIA is pointing down, you want to make sure you're not fighting the overall market or the overall sector that you're playing within. Okay, so yeah, sorry. Just making sure I'm reading through all of Glitch's messages or message. Yeah, so and to that point, like I think even though there are a few setups that did pan out to the upside today, like I know Coreweave, or if you wait until later into the day, there were some other setups that did pan out to upside. Just be aware, like those setups were counter to the trend of the whole market, right? And plays, good downside plays like Bloom Energy, etc., paid way more than any upside play did today. So just make sure you're not too biased. And I know recently we have been pretty strong bull bias past few months, but just make sure you're paying attention to overall market heat maps, and then also just pay attention to what Glitch says. Like Glitch has been saying, the VIX is gonna jump, so we are expecting some level of pullback. So just take into account what he's messaging, um, and just size appropriately, or just don't play. If there's a bit of uncertainty, just don't trade this week because if you're gonna take a large red day today, you'd probably be happier end of week if you just did nothing at all and just had been still watching the market, but just not playing it, right? So a few, just a few words of advice there, and yeah, just I think we all need to remember Glitch has been using this tool longest of anyone here, right? So if he's messaging something out, it's not. He does joke a lot, but it's usually good advice. So just keep a track of that. Okay. WZ for hedging, I would speak to someone who has a bit more experience on that side. Honestly, I don't. That's not something I'm not too knowledgeable on. So I would speak to either Glitch or Winners Galore. I know both of them have good broad market, a good view of the market, like broadly. Hey, John. Thanks for joining. Let me see. What else do we have here? Rocket Lab. Okay, yeah. So that'd be great, John. So yeah, it seems in a little bit I might switch over and let John Drake take over if he wants to do a bit of a recap. But for now, I can pull up Rocket Lab. I think Loon had asked for this. And yeah, Josh, the MS, there's a few tickers that are trickier than others to play, right? Like I know MSTR does a lot of nonsense. Tesla does a lot of nonsense. I think Chewy in the past had also done a lot of craziness. So just make sure if you've been burned in the past, just it's okay to play a ticker lightly or just not at all if needed. Okay, so Loon, you had said Rocket Lab. Let me see here. Yeah, and thanks Loon for helping to send some of those screenshots as you go through them. So Rocket Lab. Let me see. So today we rejected off 54, 53-ish.
Steady outside?
Oh shoot. Sorry, let me see who's not muted. Okay, seems to have been fixed. Um
My bad. Sorry, Nico.
oh, all good.
Me this time.
I was gonna say ironic based on what you were saying the other day.
All right, I'm shutting up.
No, just messing with you. Um, so yeah, it seems I'm only looking at end of day Rocket Lab map, but so I'd be curious what it looked like at the end of yesterday and the beginning of today. But Rocket Lab looks like it also did overshoot this 4950 level, and then I don't know if there was a 53 node here that it rejected off of, or if not, this is a good example as well of another, you know, king node overshoot, and then the next day sort of came back down and ended up at that level. So I would have to look at some of the previous maps. So I don't know, Loon, if you were pulling some of those. Oh, okay. So you're saying you're targeting this for next week, if I'm understanding correctly. Let me zoom out. Let me zoom out here for daily. Okay. Yeah. So Rock Lab does have some pretty nice nodes going into next week, up at 54, 57. But honestly, when you see these, I guess another comment I'll make is when you're seeing two nodes, even if this 57 node was twice as large as 54, you should really be expecting 54 for next week because a lot of times what will happen is this will either stall price, or even if we make it to 57, it'll still spend some time. It'll slightly reject off 54 or chop, right? So just a lot of times you want to take a look at these maps, plan for the worst case scenario, right? Like worst case scenario for next week is all this 57 volume shifts to 54, and just make sure you're buying your contracts according to that. Um, Now let me see. Okay, so yeah, for a bounce into next week, let me see what Josh was saying. So yeah, Josh, I think perfect world. I think playing bounces off purple towards yellow nodes is, um, I think Glitch had mentioned once those are his favorite setups. Even if we are playing yellow, you can still play yellow nodes as bounces. But yeah, they're usually not as. I guess I think what I've seen is if it's playing a bounce off yellow node, this will usually bounce later in the week because as price gets there, it'll slow down and then the bounce will come a bit later. So whereas the purple node may just bounce immediately. Uh, I'm not sure either. I don't play spreads, so I'd have to. I'd probably. I guess this is a good one to track into end of week next week, and then maybe you can give us an update there. But yeah, in general, if you can enter any plays, the later the better, right? Just because you'll avoid a lot of the theta burn, and then you'll likely get a much cheaper entry. And again, I know some of you worry, if I wait too long, will I miss the play? If that happens, so be it, right? Like, I know obviously a lot of us get frustrated when we miss good plays, but if that happens, just shift that time to finding the next play. Um, and just, yeah, it's better to miss one than to enter too early and just go through a lot of drawdown or take a loss. Let me see. So that 42.5. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think Loon is saying playing this 42.5 wick here. It's probably a pretty good fib level here too. Yeah, so honestly, Rocket Lab is probably a pretty good one to keep an eye on into end of week, or just set an alert down here, either at 44 or 42, and just see if we make it there, and then you can play the bounce into next week. Okay. Let me see. Okay, let me get back. So hymns. So I think for now, I think I covered most of the requests for sort of for recaps. John's gonna hop on. Honestly, he can probably speak to a lot more of this than I can. Um, Especially on the index side, John has he's much better with that. So we'll wait for him to hop on, and then we can sort of go over any recaps that he wants to do. But I'll just keep going through a few more that you guys requested. So hymns, let me see. Yeah, so hymns another one. Let me see. So hymns in theory that entry would have been here off 54. We did hunt a bit lower. For now, I honestly wouldn't be too concerned. Um, like we're still holding this level pretty well. One thing I'll do here is take a look back at Monday, Monday, Tuesday, and today, and just check how these nodes grew or shrank. But hymns does have upside even going into next week. So setup looks pretty decent, honestly. Yeah, just assuming the market is either stall, if the market continues red, then I would stay away. But assuming we get a bit more positive day on the indexes, then I could see him taking pretty good bounce there off that 54 node. Okay, Tesla. Okay, let me. Okay, yeah, let me pull these up. So Tesla had a super strong day today. 4:30. Okay, so it looks, and I don't know what Tesla looked like yesterday, but it looks like Tesla bounced super strong off this 4:30 node here, as well as down here. That was pretty apparent on GEX and VEX. If you didn't load this, did Tesla move pre-market? No, it just pumped right out the gate. Yeah, so like honestly, Tesla, if you didn't load this right out open or um, late in the day yesterday, this is like a pretty huge chase. And the upside, we have $7 upside for the rest of the week. So I'd say like the risk reward is probably not there on Tesla anymore. 447. Okay, so then we'd have to see how these nodes grow or shrink tomorrow. One thing you could target is potentially a rejection off 450. Um, Now, I'd only advise that if this 460 and 470 nodes, if these balloon up and grow a lot, I would not try to play this rejection. But if these stay sort of where they are and we still have this volume here at 430, you can try to play a 450 rejection. But, in that case, um, yeah, just make sure you're taking your trims early whenever you play those rejections. Oh, if you're swinging calls, then good stuff. Um, yeah, anyone who swung calls doing really good there. But yeah, I think like the upside is quite limited into the rest of the week, so probably just be careful there. Yeah, make sure you trim and leave a runner or two if needed, but I wouldn't go too crazy on holding Tesla any higher. Okay, let me see. I don't know. I think I covered most people messages, but yeah, just keep dropping messages if needed. I'm just checking all the channels in the Discord to see. Okay, okay, hello. So okay, low looks like it rejected 140. So honestly, okay, low looks very similar to Bloom, right? Where we had this 140 node last week. Um, we reached it very close to it Friday, Monday, Tuesday we pumped a bit over, and then we got pretty good rejection off that. I guess yeah, this overshoot was overnight, not really during market hours, but we got a super strong rejection off that 140 level. Going into the rest of the week, so what I would imagine is this 140 node was probably pretty lit up yesterday at close. And then today, as we dropped this, probably faded pretty strong while this 120, 109 came to life. I don't, that's my assumption. I don't recall how these looked. But again, I guess this is probably another example of, if you didn't catch it off of this node, that rejection, anything here is probably a chase. So I'll just let that play run out. Okay. Circle. Let me see here. Okay, Circle has some pretty good upside on Vex. On Gex, see this 130 level looks quite important. Okay, yeah, so this wick here. Oh, shoot. Yeah, so this level here looks pretty major. Actually, looks like we wicked it early in the morning and bounced pretty hard from there. What do we reject off here? 136. So I don't know how these nodes evolve throughout the day, but it looks like, yeah, we bounced off this 130. This 136 seems to have given a bit of trouble. Vex is still pointing up into end of week, so I'd say as long as this 130, as long as we hold maybe even this week down to 128, Circle looks pretty good. Again, this is all these setups have caveat of what Glitch mentioned. Just always keep that in mind of how the general indexes look going into the rest of the week. Yeah, no problem, Warren. Okay. Let me see. So I'm not sure if anyone wants me to go over anything else, or if if desired, I can also start to go through some of the bigger points from John's PDF file that he sent out some time ago. Or we can go ahead and wait for John to join himself and see. He may have a couple of topics that he's focused on getting through, so I'm not too sure what everyone prefers to go through for the rest of the time. Just let me know in the comments. Okay, Datadog. So Datadog, a pretty strong trend line here. Let's see, a bit more zoomed in. So yeah, it looks like we did bounce pretty strong again off that trend line, which also coincides with this week. Sort of this level here at around 135. On the heat map, let's see. Yeah, that 135, 136 had some volume. Honestly, it's not major on this 135, but apart from this 142, this is sort of the next bigger level. I see a 139, 135. So I'll say this bounce off 135 was pretty clean. That lined up well with the trend line. Um, I guess the only caution for going higher into end of week is these recent highs around 139. We'll have to break above that for us to see that 142 node. Um, so yeah, just either take trims as we approach here, or just make sure your size small if you're expecting the 142 level to be hit this week. But this bounce
Nerd.
looked pretty nice. Sorry, was someone gonna say something? Oh,
Yeah,
John
it's
joined.
John Wicks.
Oh, what's up, man?
Yo yo.
Um, yeah, John. So I guess a couple things. The I think I'll have to keep sharing because I've been like I could share screen, but then we'll just overlay your voice because I'm recording this on OBS so I can post to YouTube after. So if you prefer to share your
I'll
screen,
be
I'll
quiet then.
I can cut it and then share it over after. But I don't know what kind of recap you
Uh,
wanted to go over to. Like, is it something I can pull
finish
up on my
your
screen while you talk over?
finish your thing. I'm gonna go ahead and prepare some stuff. I'll do a live recap of today's SPX low of day tonight. I'll do it after you're done.
Okay, yeah, and I think I should wrap up not too much longer. I've just been saying if anyone wants me to go over any tickers, but so probably not too much longer, John. And then we can switch over to you.
Yeah, just a quick FYI, Nico. If you wanted to, you'll still have to record on your screen, but you could just pull up your Discord, and if John's screen sharing, just make it full screen
Oh,
and see on the
oh yeah,
recording.
yeah. That's a good point. Okay, yeah. So in that case, John, we can transfer over pretty easily as soon as I'm done, and then I'll let you finish up for the rest of the day, rest of the night.
Yeah,
Uh,
take your time. I'm gonna get all the stuff ready, like maps and stuff, and take screenshots of them and put them in the
okay,
in trading view. Yeah. So take your time.
okay,
I gotta prepare some stuff.
okay, perfect, sweet man. Let me see. Okay, back to yeah. So SMH. Let me see. This is the semis ETF, I believe. So I think this one I had marked out on watch list because it has huge, like this is a very clear stair stepping down pattern over the next month. right? Like we got down to 307 2 weeks out, and then even October 10th and 17th, we're still seeing nodes just continuously stair step down. I will say, yeah, it wasn't that watch list I sent out. I will say I forgot. I didn't even I didn't even track this one today, but let me see here. Looks like it did get a pretty strong bounce off of this previous high, and ended the day pretty flat. So I'm not too sure on this one. I guess the best entry would have been off this 325 on yesterday, which was this node here. So I'd have to go check if these, but I would expect these lower nodes have grown after that rejection yesterday. So yeah, if we get these lower nodes to overtake, like these 315, 312 nodes to overtake the 325, that would probably be a good sign that we're just gonna, keep heading lower over the next couple weeks, over the next month, maybe even. But yeah, I think if anyone is gonna swing maybe longer dated contracts on these, you just want to be once a day, just come in, check how these nodes are doing, right? And then at the same time, you want to check chart and say like, for us to drop any further, it would probably be we would need to lose this strong support resistance level at 318. Let me see what other levels. It's 310. No, it's not honestly. So maybe this level here at 305-ish is also quite strong. And then even down here at 300, probably have some resistance there. Yeah, so some resistance all the way from back here. So there's just some levels to watch to the downside that are just previous support resistance flips. Whether you're looking for a target or just, you want to set alert at some of these and then just look for a bounce. But yeah, yeah, I do remember that like this stair stepping pattern was pretty apparent when I charted this earlier in the week. And yeah, then same comment I made earlier, right? Like it may be good. I think most traders have a bit of a bullish mindset. Um, but what I think is always be prepared for some level of downside, right? So always just keep, 2 or 3 plays watch listed that are downside plays, and then based on index direction for the day, you can sort of pick which plays will likely go better, right? So you are always playing with the market and not against the market, right? So one word of advice there. So let me see. um, no, my voice is pretty raspy. I've been sick all week, or at least it feels raspy. So I've just been chugging water all the time. Okay. Datadog 135. Because we bounced off 135, we don't expect it to come back. Yeah, so Josh, I haven't checked this node, how it developed throughout today. But to me, the node looks quite minor, so I don't know if it was stronger throughout the day and it shrank now, or it's just been this small the entire time. But I would be surprised if that 135 node held much influence going into the rest of the week. Hopefully that answers your question. And yeah, SMH, I think, especially if indexes continue to point down, it does look like a pretty good downside play. And we can get, and again, for those of you who want maybe a bit of a safer play, it's something you can load, longer dated contracts and just stress a bit less, right? Like I know playing 0 DTE and weeklies, it's a pretty stressful game. So just try to learn your own psychology as well. And if buying more time on contracts or more closer to the money will help you, then make sure to do all those things so you're not as stressed, because the goal is to do well, but the goal is also to have some confidence in how you're trading and to not destroy yourself mentally while you're doing that. Let me see. All bootcamp voices. No, I think, yeah, there's a few of us who are more open to speak than others, but everyone, yeah, again, a big point of doing this on Discord is it is open for anyone to speak, um, whether that's for questions, in case if something's easier to explain verbally than over chat, then yeah, just want everyone to know that. Yeah, one comment there is I am now recording, and in the future there'll be live streams on YouTube. So if on the inverse side you don't want your voice to show up in any of those recordings, then make sure you're typing everything out. So if you don't want to reveal your voice, but I leave that up to each of you. Let me see. Am I missing anything? I think SMH was the last one. And yeah, if any of you have questions that are easier verbally, just go ahead and do it. It's not, you don't have to ask or anything to make those questions. Just ask them whenever you want. Oracle. Yes, let me check these maps. Stair step down on Vex. Oracle, I would not say so. Oracle's pretty split for next week. Like we have 295 here, we have 350 up here, 320 has a bit of volume. Yeah, I'd say 2 weeks out, it does for now seem to point down. 285 and 260 have some good volume with only 350 on the upside. But I would say in general, I like to see like having this empty week before these downside nodes is maybe a bit concerning because we can see a lot of manipulation before it drops. And then the last thing is this 1017 node is OPEX, so a lot of these nodes are they don't always take hold, or there's a lot of reshuffling sometimes with those nodes. So generally, when you look at stair stepping, I would like to see at least 2 or 3 weeks non-OPEX show the trend. So I would have liked this October 3rd to have a good downside node, if that makes sense. Shopify, let me check this one. Oh, sorry, I didn't check the map or the chart on Oracle, but hopefully the explanation there covered your question. Let me see, Shopify. Yeah, again here, like I would definitely say there's a bit of bias to downside, but we're not seeing like true stair stepping. Like this October 10th doesn't really have any volume lower, and then OPEX seems pretty split except for this large node here at 140. But again, playing, I don't know how these contracts move, but $10 downside over a week, over a month, I mean, is not a massive move. So it gives you a lot of time to, you can sort of find a better entry, right? But just taking these straight out the gun at some point this week is probably not best case. But yeah, like WZ for your, I guess to go back to this SMH example, and I think even last week, like last week what we were seeing, or no, sorry, not last week, but earlier this week, what we were seeing is we were at this 325. We had some downside nodes for the week, as well as these nodes stacked here, 305, 307 next week. And 2 weeks out, we had these 295 and 280 nodes. So like this is maybe a better example of what I'm saying, where you want to see a pretty consistent um, stair stepping down. But when you have a missing week in between, it just gives a bit of a less of a optimal look there. And yeah, great point, Loon. Like the, and this is just a general tip. Again, like if you're seeing a case, if you're looking at any setup and you're saying like, oh wow, like this would be clean if there was this node, or like this looks iffy because we're missing something here, just don't play it, right? Like just keep looking, because throughout all of those tickers there should be another one that has whatever component you're missing of the other setup, it'll have it, right? So like SMH here has a bit cleaner stair step. So just make sure you're just continuing to look through all of the setups. So hopefully that gives good example there, WZ, of hopefully that answers your question on two tickers you asked, and then maybe shows a good example of a clean stair step all the way down. And yeah, thanks Loon for helping to answer questions the whole time throughout the chat. So no pressure to speak. You can keep typing how you have been. And yeah, correct. Like just because we see a good setup doesn't mean we just take it as we want. We also want to make sure we're getting a good entry on there. Okay. Oracle, Shopify. Okay. Don't see any other questions there. Okay, so for now, maybe we can, unless anyone else has anything else to go over, we can take a small break until John's ready to go through some of the stuff he's put together. TQQQ. Okay, yeah, I can check this out real quick. Let me see here. So TQQQ had a really nice support resistance flip here at 100. It looks like that level was carrying some volume, the 199. And I guess, yeah, that was into midday or late of day today, after once the indexes bounced. So I don't know if this 103 node was larger at open and then shrank, or if it stayed pretty consistent. But yeah, one comment here is it's pretty interesting. TQQQ is pointed pretty upwards, as opposed to QQQ, which I think it still has mostly downside. Actually, I take that back. QQQ seems pretty split for tomorrow. Maybe slight favoring to the downside. Actually, let me check all the indexes. So I guess with the sell-off for the past 2 days, a lot of these indexes are a bit more neutral now, I would say. They seem to still be biased a bit towards downside, but definitely more neutral than before, although this SPX node down here is concerning. Uh, Sorry y'all, had to kill a bug. Okay, but yeah, it seems with some of the sell-off, throughout the week we've had still a bit more bias towards downside, but it's definitely more in a neutral, a bit more neutral. But yeah, you'll have to check how those look after open tomorrow. ASML. Oh, is this not on heat map? Okay, yeah, I can just chart ASML. Sorry, let me go out to daily here. Not too sure with ASML, honestly. It looked like it had pretty heavy consolidation. This is a pretty strong support resistance flip from the past, so maybe keep an eye on that level. But yeah, it seems like this one we consolidated. What, from June to August? We just got a large breakout recently on this earnings. Yeah, it looks like we pumped off earnings, retraced it, and then now we're pumping once again to refill that earnings candle.
Yeah.
Shoot, sorry, let me see who's.
Uh, looks like you're looking at wrong chart, bro. ASML, AML. You're looking at AMSL.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
all good, yeah.
Okay, on the ASML side, looks like you rejected pretty good off this wick here. We're very close to it. These are a bit harder to read. Like, this has been pretty massive move. So in general, with these kind of moves, you kind of just want to go marking out like the previous, just any of the previous major support lines that you see. So sort of down here at 870, this 942 has been a pretty strong support resistance flip as well. So you just want to sort of go back and mark them out like that. On a move this extended, you can't really do a fib retracement. Like if you do a fib retracement, you'd be waiting weeks for it to tap down to like 800, 700. So you kind of have to use other levels you can see in price. But yeah, it did look like it rejected a pretty strong wick from months ago. And for now, it seems to be holding this 942 pretty well. But this is, I'll be honest, I've never even heard of this ticker. If it's a holding, I don't know what composes it. So you may also want to be looking at that
Okay,
to gauge the performance of it. Hopefully that helped.
sure. Cool. Yeah, thank you though. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Me, Nico.
Sorry, who was that?
John Wicks. I'm ready.
Oh,
Whenever you're
okay.
done.
Yeah, let me, I think just UVXY and then I'll be done. And we can transition over to you. Okay. So again, UVXY is also ETF. So okay, and these king nodes are 10, 5, and 11. So UVXY is not saying much, I guess. I hesitate to call this a very strong staircase, but we have a bit of a weak staircase up. But you know, we're still seeing some volume down here at $10, $11. So I would say this one I'd be a bit more cautious of. And also, these are end of the day, these are pretty weak nodes. Like on Vex, not even reaching 4 digits, pretty small nodes overall. So I don't UVXY. Don't know if I have much to say here. I guess maybe this. We have a strong level here at $11.20. And if you're looking for a bounce, maybe you can wait here for this level, which is held a couple times over the past couple weeks. But I'm not sure I'm seeing much there. Oh, it tracks VIX. Yeah, so in that case, I think I would just look at VIX. I think VIX had pretty good setup on VEX, maybe. Yeah, like VIX is pointing pretty high into December on this setup, so I probably wouldn't take anything on a derivative of just VIX. Break above 10.8. Oh, I see. Yeah, you can play a break of the support resistance here. I guess it goes back a bit further, but I don't know. I don't have too much experience playing these. Like a lot of these ETFs are like derived. A lot of these tickers that are just derived off of another one. So I'd probably, and I honestly, I don't even know who has good experience with that, but in general, I would just play with. I tend to stay away from the derived ones and just stay on the general tickers. And TQC, I think that was the last ticker I wanted to go through. So we should be good to transition now over to John. So in that case, let me stop sharing my screen, and then John, once you start sharing your screen, I'll pull up Discord and full screen it so it'll record your portion as well. And then
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah, and so I
I'm
can
not
upload
very
to
tech savvy, so just tell me what to do.
no, like you should be able to just present your screen as normal. Well, first of all, you're okay with me recording your portion as well and just uploading it all to YouTube after?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So in that case, just present as normal, and I'll set that up so it's so everyone can see your screen as well.
Let me know to share my screen.
Yeah, you can go ahead right now. And thanks again for joining, John, and
Yeah. I just
setting
was
this up.
preparing a recap. I got home and I'm like, since you're still live, why not just do a live for everyone to see as well, and then post it in the Insights tab and on X as well. It's even better that it's going on YouTube.
Yeah, so I think
Perfect.
in the future I can record it separately if you want to have your own account, but for now it can just be on the tail end of what I upload on YouTube. So hopefully that's all right. Just let me
Yeah.
know.
I'm working on preparing it, as we had talked about before, and working out with Glitch. So yeah,
Okay,
we'll
perfect.
figure out the logistics of that in a little bit. But so I bet everyone was wondering about today. Wait, before I start, can everyone see my screen? Let me open up chat. Make sure everyone can see.
Yeah, and a warning for everyone in chat, that is also on the YouTube live stream. So, well, this portion, so don't be saying anything crazy.
Yeah, and TQC, it's going to be recorded, so if you have to, you have to. Anyways, so as you can see, and as you probably know, we had a pretty harsh sell-off and a pretty strong rejection from 66.75, and it was just straight blood all day. Like when market opened, I was marking my levels. We had upside marked, we had downside marked, and the heart of the sell-off when I just kept marking levels, where price could have bounced off of. But how can we know for sure? There were a few key things that I was looking at. I knew we would get some sort of bounce, a low of day, but it took a little bit of context clues and a little bit of stacking confluences to be able to come to that conclusion. First and foremost, I do all of my support and resistance, my technical analysis, all of like SR flips, major liquidity levels, all that stuff. I always do it on EF and NQ, and I strictly do SPX, SPY, and QQQ for GEX levels. That way, when I see that ES is approaching a major level that lines up with a GEX floor or a put floor or a call wall, I'll know that there's extra confluence. So when it comes to finding low of day, at least when it came for today, you had to stack confluence. And what was that confluence for me? We had major support here. Actually, I should move this over. Major support here. I knew that at some point, I had this level marked for a while now, actually. I knew at some point when we revisited this major level, we would get some sort of bounce. First and foremost, from a price action and market structure standpoint, check. On ES, it was an hourly higher time frame liquidity hunt. We came down, we stop hunted a crap ton of people, and then we bounced back up. So first and foremost, I was eyeing this level as an area of interest. Actually had alerts at this level for a while now. That happened to have gone off today. So as we were dumping and as we were approaching, I noticed on QQQ, this 595 level, I am willing to bet a ton of people tried longing at this floor, at this range on SPX SPY, and as QQQ approached a put floor. I'm willing to bet a ton of people long there. And here's why that was not a good idea. SPX had a ton of downside accumulation down at 66.20 and 66.15. And we did have a minor put floor at 66.35. So I'm willing to bet a ton of people tried longing here. Because of the put floors here, that was not enough confluence to take a long. It's better to wait for a stronger rejection as price was approaching these put floors. And on SPY, what did that look like? Here at this 1151 range, as it approached 661, we still had downside accumulation as well. I like to use this analogy, and people who I've talked with and done onboarding calls with, which I'm going to be doing soon, know that I like to use the analogy of jumping on the moon versus jumping on Jupiter. If we have a ton of downside stacked, if we have a ton of downside pull, we're not going to get that strong of a bounce. It's like jumping on Jupiter. You're not going to jump very high. Whereas if you have a ton of upside stacked and you're bouncing off a put floor, it's like jumping on the moon. You're going to get a much higher bounce. So I like to say the word magnets, but I also like to think of gravity because I'm a big like astrophysics guy. I like to think of gravity in that aspect because, well, not only did we have these massive put floors, they also grew. And I just posted the before and after, but if you went back and back tested, you could see how the rate of change of this occurred. This grew 30%. Now, as people got knifed through, as people got stopped out, we continued our next leg lower into the 660 floor. This was at 1206. This would be an area I would be more interested. Jupiter is way bigger. This was more of an area of interest to me, not because of SPY. There was still a little bit of hesitation or like a little bit of divergence in the sense that we still had downside accumulation. But what happened was that QQQ overshot the heck out of its king node at 595. And we still had upside stacked. This upside never went away. I knew at the very least, for me, that some sort of long on NQ or QQQ was warranted. Right, stops, take profits, maybe trail them. I was able to catch a bulk of the move on NQ. I think I entered like right around here, which stops at like a new low of day. And I think I full TP'd like right at the top of this candle selling into strength. Something like this is what I took. I was actually in a Zoom call with Nico when this happened because we were planning out some awesome stuff for you guys in the future. But the core concept for the long thesis was I was looking for this area of liquidity to get tapped because all these people, all these little Timmies who chased these massive boner candles, chased all of this. Where do they have their stops? Underneath the most recent swing low. All this resting liquidity, little Timmy stop loss. Same thing on NQ. People here, I know that at this pivot flip, we were going to get people stepping in to buy longs. What happened? They also got stop hunted as well. The key thing to note is QQQ overshot its king node. SPY came within a couple dollars, not even a dollar, from its major put floor here, and QQQ led the rally back up. Granted, like I said, it wasn't a massive V-shaped recovery like we've had in recent days, but I knew at this level, the risk to reward was good for longs. The probability, I would say, was a little bit less than I would like, but that risk to the reward was too good to take up. I was able to catch a good chunk of this move. I believe I was stopped in profit. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So the core concept, confluence on ES and NQ major level, wait for a major put floor to get hit. If there is massive downside backed, wait until price gets closer to that downside. Look for some sort of divergence to the upside, as in QQQ significantly overshooting its king node, and look for map reshuffle as price approaches a major area at 660, 6620, and on QQQ it was an overshoot of 595. I would say if you were looking to get like the most perfect sniper entry possible, I would have kept an eye on ES because that gave the most clear cut like liquidity hunt, but it's not always going to be like that. The idea is to keep an eye on the indices because the market runs off SPX, SPY, and QQQ. They all run off of NQ and ES, like Coinbase runs off of Bitcoin. So always, it's very important. Mark your levels on the indices, follow them, set your alerts at key levels, wait for confluence on the heat maps, and I promise you'll turn things around. If anyone did get knifed on this, I'll admit I got knifed on it too. I did manage to come out on top because, like you guys, to anyone who took that first long, I had a tight stop on this because I wasn't sure if we were going to come down, and I decided to wait for the overshoot of 595 and for us to approach this put floor. And yeah, Miss Volatility, you've been killing it. You have been freaking killing it. By the way, for anyone that may be interested, I do have an indicator because as you all know, ES and NQ are not available on heat map, but we do have SPY, SPX, and QQQ. I'm going to share with you guys an indicator that I use that is a price converter. That way you can have real-time updates of SPX, SPY, and QQQ on your charts. And it even gives you support and resistance lines. So right here was 6650 on ES. And you can see here on NQ, it gives you QQQ major levels as well. On top of the fact that it also gives you the actual price updating in real time next to the candle. And yes, pushing green, that's exactly it. And that's all I got. For those who who are looking to catch a flow of day, just it may have gotten stopped out. Just remember, if you're going to take a long when there's significant downside, wait for price approach or deflect that downside first. Don't just take it like the midpoint of a range. Yeah, I'm good, Nico. That's my recap. I'm gonna type everything up in Insights and post it on X. And yeah, thanks, guys.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, John, for joining in late notice and sharing with everyone.
Yep, no worries.
Yeah, everyone really appreciates it. And yeah, I'll post this on YouTube. I'll send out YouTube in the Discord. And yeah, I don't know if anyone has anything else needed for me to cover or if we can just end for today. Please let me know. Just message in the chat. And again, thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, I think me and John have be able to figure out a more regular rhythm, so hopefully it'll be better for everyone who needs to plan
Yeah,
their days and be able to attend. So I know me and him have been coordinating and running things through Glitch, but
Nico
we
and I
should.
have. Yep. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just gonna say that Nico and I have been doing meetings and we've been coordinating. We've been talking to provide you guys with like the most seamless experience possible when it comes to bridging the gap between what you know and what you're able to get out of heatseeker. Because this market is pretty rough. We overshoot levels. Um, it's really volatile with Trump and all these rate cuts looming and the economy being bad or whatnot. So um, we've had good days. We've had bad days, and we've had a lot of chop and whipsaw days. So Nico and I are really trying to make it so that way everyone could freaking bank, because that is our goal. Nico and I were here in Heatseeker when it was just SPX, and we've been studying it and understanding it to the best of our ability. And now with what we've learned and all of our losses and all of our wins and all of our blown accounts and all of our blown fundeds, we're able to now share this with you so that way you guys don't have to do the same.
Yeah, perfectly said, John. I think we're just trying to make sure the benefit is there for all of you. So, so again, either both of our PMs are open as well. If you guys have any questions, any advice, anything you'd like us to change, just let us know. And I think, John, I don't know how much time you have, but it looks like Josh has a question for you. Um, I don't know. This is pretty impromptu for Josh or for John, so if needed, I can try to cover, and John, you can answer that question when you have more time, but up to you.
Yeah. Let me see. I was worried about that, but I knew that we were overextended and QQQ was pointing up. That's exactly why I took it on NQ, not on ES. And that's why I said the risk to reward was good, but the probability was a bit, it wasn't iffy. I knew we would get at least some sort of mean reversion, but I wasn't sure if that was going to be here, if we were going to overshoot 620. I just knew the risk to reward was good enough for me to take a long. And I will be right back. Baby is calling.
Yeah, John, no worries. Yeah, guys, I have a bit more flexibility and time to meet. Just John has a newborn, so he's often quite busy. So just be conscious of that when reaching out to John, and that's why he'll probably be doing a bit less live recording and a bit more posting recaps, etc. So let me see. So I think that covered Josh's question or Josh. Uh, Tiger Trader, Tiger, you're anti, right? I swear you changed your name, unless my memory's terrible. Any advice how to break the bad habit of buying after the breakout breakdown? Yeah, so Antio, I think I mentioned it earlier. I don't know if you were here, but I think the mindset
Hopping
I
off.
would have
Um,
hopping off,
yep.
John. Thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, I'm hopping
Appreciate
off.
it.
I'm gonna help my wife with the baby. She's been fussy all night.
Yeah, of course, man. Understand.
Yep.
Have a good night, man. Thanks for the help.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll drop the recap. I'll probably do it in the morning.
Perfect.
Pre-market.
Perfect, man. Yeah, I'll keep a lookout for it.
Yep. See ya.
See, yep. Yep. Thanks to John. And to or Tiger. Back to your question. Yeah, I think what I had said earlier is, you're gonna have, there's thousands, hundreds of trades you can take in a week, right? So what you're gonna end up doing is have a watch list, 10 to 20. What you need to be prepared to do is miss 70, 80. You should be prepared to miss the majority of those moves in order to catch the absolute best move. So, and remember, I think the trading method that I use, that Glitch teaches, it's based a lot on reversals. So if you open the chart, or if you set an alert and you open up the chart and it's already reversed off that level, if contract's already up 20, 30%, just don't take the play, right? Just that's what I'm saying. If you have 10 possible plays and you miss 8 of them, that's fine. If you're able to catch 2, that means the 2 that you caught are some of, sort of the best entries, best setups that you could take, right? So just make sure you're maximizing the ones you take and making sure they're optimal as you can get them, right? So yeah, there'll be a ton of missed entries, missed trades, and you just mentally have to be prepared to do that in order for the trades you do take um, to be the most beneficial to your port long term, right? So just try to think of it that way, as you're trying to make sure that every shot you take is good, right? So um, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Um, so it's a big mentality shift, but yeah, setting alerts, like Loon says, can actually be a huge help because if you set an alert, that means you're saying, based on the chart and based on these maps, if it hits this level, I know I should have a good risk reward and I'm willing to take this trade, right? And that means you will never, if you only enter after alerts, you won't enter early, you won't chase, as soon as your alert taps and you open up the app, you'll say, if this level is still at a good, if we're still at a good level, the map still supports my thesis, I'll take this trade right now. Otherwise, I either missed it already because it bounced, or the thesis is not there anymore. I think that's another important thing, is if you set alerts early in the week, like say Monday, and come Wednesday, say your alert gets triggered, right? If you open up the chart and the heat map and your thesis is not there anymore, or your thesis is halfway gone, just don't play it, right? Just say, okay, what looked good on Monday doesn't look good on Wednesday or Thursday, and that's fine, right? Like, I'll just shift your focus over to finding something else. So you should, there's 300 maps on heatseeker, and there's thousands of tickers, right? Like, you should always have something new you can shift to go look at. And even if it's not another individual ticker, you can always fall back to SPY and QQQ if you just need something to look at and either paper trade, do a prop firm futures account. But there's very low risk ways for you to still practice that will not cost you hundreds of dollars in positions that you're trying to force a trade, etc. So um, yeah, so and follow Loon has very good advice. I think um, she's had a lot of growth as well, so I think she is probably a good person as well to just keep track to some of that tips she gives, because they're very applicable to everyone. And even within this, just this live stream, she's been giving good advice the entire time. Okay. Uh, any other questions? Oh yeah, Peen. Yeah, we had one day. It was pretty early on after Glitch switched his profile picture. We just all just ripped it off of him and then just modified small things. So that's why everyone seems to have a pretty similar profile image. Yeah, so everyone's having fun with ChatGPT and Grok or whatever all the AIs are. So it was pretty funny day. Yeah, Joe, I had to. Yeah, I flipped it over to white color scheme, and then you got to stand out, man. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, great. Unless anyone else has a question or any comments, I guess we can close this for today. So again, hopefully it was helpful to everyone. And thanks to John for hopping in and giving his portion at the end. I'll post this to YouTube and I'll try to find the timestamp of when John started, and I'll send an announcement with the YouTube link and that timestamp so people are able to watch they what they need. Thanks everyone. Appreciate everyone joining, and then we'll probably do something over the weekend, but Thursday and Friday I won't be doing any sessions. At least tomorrow. Friday it depends. It depends on plans. Peen 3 hours. You can PM me, but I probably won't hop on. I probably won't stay on this live stream for the next 3 hours. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna cut the OBS recording and start figuring out how to upload that to YouTube. Good night, everyone. Thanks.